What a great crowd. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a great crowd. Wow, this is so great. Man, if I hadn't had 6 cups of coffee, that was equal 6 cups of coffee, walking out and seeing the excitement. And I can't tell you how glad I am to be here for so many reasons, but especially because I'm with some great friends. I love working in the Senate with your senior Senator, Bobby Casey. What a great guy. Give Bob a big round of applause. I don't know why they did this. They decided that Bob and I would be on the aging committee. I mean, we're young people. But Bob, this is obviously a hugely important committee that's focusing upon dignified retirement and the services that our seniors need, and Medicaid and Medicare, and the cost of prescription drugs, letting people stay in their own homes as long as they can. And Bob is such a great champion on those issues and so many others. I'm so glad to be with them. Your Congressman Matt Cartwright. Give Matt a big round of applause. I understand that Matt already told you I was a nerd and was in a spelling bee with him. You know, that's not how I usually lead with my resume. But Matt, it is really good to be here in the community with you. You do such good work. Your State Auditor General, Eugene DePasquale. Eugene, thank you so much for your great work. Sitting next to a great role model there in Senator Casey, who held that position. And then I really want to thank Ray Hymans, who introduced me. Please give him a round of applause for his great service. Military, letter carrier, super volunteer. A lot of people were part of the program before I walked out. Mary Rose Sartoretto did the Pledge of Allegiance, and Eva Estrada made a field pitch. And then there are a lot of elected officials here, and I'm just going to go through them quickly and then tell you why we should give them all a round of applause. Steve Samuelson is a state rep. Mike Schlossberg, state rep. Peter Schweier, state rep. And then from City Council, Julio Garidi, Cynthia Mota, Olga Negron, Michael Colon, and Brian Callahan, local elected officials. Give them a round. Yeah, please. It is, it's not an easy time to be in political life. It's a sacrifice of time with your family. It's a financial sacrifice. If you make a mistake, and we all make mistakes, it's going to be on the front page. People aren't necessarily looking to love people in politics. They're looking more to maybe criticize people in politics. But it takes a special person to stand up and say, yeah, those may all be true, but still, I think I have something to offer to my community. And having been a city councilman and mayor and having worked at the state level, I really honor those who serve, and you're lucky to have some great public servants here. So thank you guys for what you do. Thank you for what you do. So we've had 2 great days in Pennsylvania. You know, Hillary and I started off the campaign with a fantastic convention in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia and Pennsylvania knocked it out of the park. You guys were... Yeah, raise your hand if you were at the convention. Raise your hand. A lot of people were there. You knocked it out of the park. And what people saw from us, Democrats, upbeat, can-do, positive, optimistic American spirit, not sugarcoating challenges that we had, but we don't have a challenge that we can't solve if we let everybody around the table to be part of the solution. And that was such a sharp contrast with the convention in Cleveland. It was doom and gloom. It looked like Gotham City 5 or some video game. Somebody told me, wow, that was a disturbing vision of the country. I said, that was no vision of the country. That convention was a guided tour through the mind of Donald J. Trump, and that's a scary place to be. A scary place to be. And we came right out of the convention, and we went on a bus tour across Pennsylvania, east, central, and west, before we went into Ohio, because the Keystone State is key to our win. You are absolutely important. We've got to win Pennsylvania. We've got to win Pennsylvania. I want to talk to you about, I think, the main issue that is on Americans' minds, which is, can we create an economy that will work for everybody, not just a few? Can we expand jobs and create ladders of opportunity for everybody? But before I do that, I just want to take a minute and tell you how proud I am to be on this ticket with Hillary Clinton. I just want to talk about that. President Obama said during the convention on Wednesday night, he gave a great speech. My speech, sadly, was sandwiched between Joe Biden and President Obama. It was like, if I don't carry a puppy or do card tricks, nobody will remember anything I do. But he said about Hillary, she is the best qualified person to be nominated to be president by either party for a very long time, maybe ever. And I believe that. And so she called me. She had a lot of great people that she was thinking about putting on the ticket, and she called and asked me to be on the ticket. And let me tell you what she said, because it tells you kind of the way her mind works, because she could have asked a lot of people who would have been great on the ticket, but just to tell you the way she's thinking about this. She called and asked me, will you join the ticket? It was 7:32 p.m. the night of Friday, July 22. Not that it was memorable. And she called and she said, I want you to be on the ticket with me and be my running mate. And I started to say yes. She goes, wait a minute, I want to tell you why first. And what she said was basically this, that the test of a Clinton administration is not going to be a bill signing, and it's not going to be what was the margin that something passed by in the House or in the Senate. It's going to be, does it make a neighborhood better where people live? Does it make a school better where teachers are teaching and kids are learning? Does it make a small business more able to add some employees or some workers more able to get training? That's going to be the test of a Clinton administration. And she said, you've been a city councilman and mayor, you've been at the state level. I think you will help me make sure that what we're doing up here has the effect that we want it to have in the places where people live and work. Well, what a humbling thing to have somebody as qualified as Hillary Clinton say, Tim Kaine, I want you to do it because this is what we're going to need. Our test is going to be, can we make a difference in people's lives? That's one thing I love about being Democrats. I think that unifies us so much. We measure our worth by the way we can help others. And the other thing that made me so proud or really excited, enthusiastic to say yes, is I just thought of the fact that I've been in politics for 22 years. I ran my first city council race in 1994. And if I'm honest, okay, so I've been the strong guy in politics. It's been my name on the yard sign. It's been my name on the ballot. It's been my name on the bumper sticker. But if I'm honest, I got to say that my political career has been built upon support by strong women. My wife has sacrificed a lot. My wife has sacrificed a lot to enable me to do what I do. I've had cabinet secretaries, I've had campaign managers, I've had agency heads, I've had donors, I've had volunteers. Who are the voters in the United States? Beginning in 1964, in presidential elections, more women have cast votes than men in every election since 1964. And so, as a strong guy who's been benefited by the support of strong women, to be asked, hey, I'm a strong woman in politics. I'm trying to make history by being the first woman president of the United States. Will you play this role to support me so that the Clinton administration can really do good things for people? I felt like my career was kind of coming full circle, and I'm one strong guy who's very happy to support a strong woman to make history in this country and be the first woman president of the United States. And a lot of strong men feel just like I do. Just like I do. So, thank you. Got some strong women and strong men here. That's great. We've been out talking about jobs while Donald Trump has been talking about, ridiculing the Virginia family whose child was killed in action, defending his friends, or fighting with this or that Republican leader that he will or will not endorse, or talking about the walls that he'll build or the alliances that he'll shred. We've been out talking about jobs. we've been out talking about how do you grow an economy that works for everybody. Now, we know this about President Obama. When he came into office, we were in a free fall economically in this recession that was generated by bad policies from the previous administration. We've created 15 million jobs. We've cut the unemployment rate in half. Your 401k is worth something again. So President Obama has done a lot of good, often without much help, to turn things around. But we know there's more to do. We know that there's more to do because in Pennsylvania and Virginia, all across the country, sadly, there are still people who look at an economy that's growing again. That's great, but they don't see the ladder that they can climb to get to success. You know, people will always have to make the decision whether they're going to climb. Individual initiative is always such a part of it, but a lot of people in our country, in communities, and maybe especially some of our young people, they don't yet see the ladder that they can climb to be successful. And so that's why Hillary and I have been out talking about jobs in our first 100-day plan to really grow an economy that works for everybody. And it's got some key components. You can go to hillaryclinton.com and read the details. Investments in infrastructure, manufacturing and research, education from pre-K to post-grad, debt-free college, career training and apprenticeships that our unions do so well. Important strategies to make the economy fairer, like equal pay for equal work and raising the minimum wage and a child care tax credit, right? So that people can work without worrying about their children. We went out last week and we rolled out a plan for small businesses because we know, look, the success of our economy isn't measured by how the highest of the high flyers on Wall Street are doing. It's measured by the small businesses that create 2/3 of jobs in this country. I came out of an ironworking and welding shop. Hillary's dad owned a drapery business. You know, these small businesses are where jobs get created, and so we've laid out a plan to make it easier to start, easier to finance, easier to grow small businesses, and easier for small businesses to have the right people to hire. Now, needless to say, Donald Trump has an economic plan too. And it's the kind of plan that you would think that Donald Trump would have. Here's a guy who's kind of been about looking out for himself, doesn't mind stiffing contractors or not paying bills to people that do work for him, doesn't mind taking money from students and saying, hey, look, you know, we're going to give you a great degree from Trump University, and tens of thousands of dollars later, when people haven't got something that's worth even the penny that it's written on. That's the Donald Trump way. And his economic plan is more for the folks that are already doing well. And I'm not asking you to do what Donald Trump says. He always says, you know, things are going to be great, believe me, as if we would believe him. I'm not asking you to believe me because Matt and Bobby have already told you. The best economic analysis firm in this country, Moody's, whose chief economist was John McCain's chief economist in 2008, they did an analysis of Trump v. Hillary, and here's what they found. The Hillary plan, if implemented at the end of her first term, 10.5 million new jobs in this country, including 435,000 new jobs right here in Pennsylvania. That's Hillary Clinton. That's Hillary Clinton. On the other hand, the Donald Trump plan would cause us to lose 3.5 million jobs, to be in, quote, a lengthy recession, and of those jobs lost, about 135,000 would be right here in Pennsylvania. So here's the difference. At the national level, 10.5 up or 3.5 down, it's a 14 million job difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. In Pennsylvania, 450 up versus 115 down. It's a 550,000 job difference. If anybody asks you, what is the difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, you just say, well, do you want a you're fired president or a you're hired president? I mean, come on. Come on. This isn't so hard. This isn't so hard. When a guy When a guy has made his mark, made his living, and made his impression on us for years by saying the words, "you're fired," with glee over and over again on TV, maybe we ought to believe him that this is the kind of a president he'll be. And I'll tell you this, the United States doesn't need a "you're fired" president. We need a "you're hired" president, and that's why Hillary Clinton has to be elected. Now, let me tell you, while we're on the subject of jobs, let me now look at this thing a different way, which is you can look at a campaign as a job interview, right? I mean, I'm running to be vice president. Hillary's running to be president. Donald Trump's running to be president. Mike Pence running to be VP. You are there to interview us. You are there to make the decision about whether we meet your standards. What happens in every job interview? You ask questions. You expect answers. And if you don't get answers, or you get answers you don't like, you say, hold on a second, there's something wrong here. Let's talk about some basic answers that the American public is entitled to in a job interview for president. Every candidate for the last 40 years has released their tax returns to the American public. Democratic, Republican, and Independent. This is what you do. This is part of the job interview. If you have respect for the voters, you give them information. That's what you do. Donald Trump encouraged others, Mitt Romney in 2012, better produce your tax returns. Donald Trump in 2014 said, quote, I promise that if I run for president, I will produce my tax returns. But now that he's running, now that he's the nominee, he's not giving us his tax returns. He thinks he can pull the wool over our eyes and make us forget what he promised, make us forget what others have done. So in this first really important area of the job interview, when you got a right to know what somebody's financial situation is, Donald Trump's breaking precedent and breaking his own word. He's breaking his word to you. He doesn't respect voters. Why does this matter? Hillary Clinton has produced her tax returns every year since 1977. As soon as I got added to the ticket, Ann and I put out 10 years of tax returns. Again, it doesn't make any difference whether you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, whether you're a supporter of mine or an opponent of mine. You got a right, and the press has a right to look at that and ask hard questions and make judgment. So we do know a few things about Donald Trump because of some casino applications. We know there were years when he didn't pay any taxes. We know that he is a guy who claims to be really charitable, but there's some serious questions about that. We know he's been in multiple bankruptcies. We know he's been sued, not involved in not hundreds of lawsuits, but thousands of lawsuits. It would seem to me that that would create even more urgency for the American public to take a look at his tax returns. Folks, even Richard Nixon released his tax returns. If you can't get up to the ethics level of Richard Nixon, you got a real problem. You got a real problem. Now, so we don't know what the tax returns say, but I think we all know that they would show that he's hiding something. Why break your promise? Because you're hiding something. He might be hiding that he's not that charitable, despite what he says about himself. I'm sure he's hiding that he doesn't pay much taxes. See, now he's saying, man, I'm going to be great for veterans. I'm going to be great for the military. Well, wait a minute. Who pays the taxes to support the veterans and the military and firefighters and teachers and mental health services? Who does that? We all do. All of us do. And nobody here is going to raise their hands if I ask and say, I love paying taxes. But if you live in this country and you have a patriotic connection to our military, I got a boy in the military deployed overseas right now, or to veterans, or to teachers, you can't stiff them your whole life and brag about it and then say, now that I'm running, oh, I'm going to be great for vets, I'm going to be great for the military. The other thing that you see if somebody gives you their tax returns is you see kind of their financial situation. Do they owe money to anybody? Because if you owe money to people, then, you might be kind of in hock to them. And if you're in hock to them, what will you do for them? What will they ask you to do for them? Now, the New York Times has done some studies of this because we don't have the tax returns, and they have been able to determine, as best as they can without tax returns, that Trump and his partnerships and organizations are in debt to the tune of about $650 million to some of the largest financial institutions in the world. I wonder if that's connected to the fact that he wants to repeal Dodd-Frank and take off the regulation of some of the very financial institutions that have loaned him money. Some of his organizations are in hock to the state-owned Bank of China. He says, I'm going to stand up and hold China accountable. Really? You're going to hold China accountable when you are deeply in debt to them and they control a lot of your financial future? Something about that just doesn't add up. It does not add up. Now, these questions can have answers, but they only get answered by somebody who answers your questions, does what you have a right to expect, and gives you the information. Until Donald Trump produces his tax return, there is not one reason for one American to trust Donald Trump. He's got to follow the rules. He's got to answer your questions. It's as simple as that. Now, second, what you would see if this financial information was out and if Trump followed the rules that others follow, you would see whether, as a presidential candidate, he has relationships or entanglements with foreign interests that could potentially endanger our national security. This is a serious question. It's an odd question to have to raise, but we have to raise it about Donald Trump. He said in a debate in March, he was talking about, look, I haven't been in government, but I have an expertise. He said he's in the midst of making about 120 different deals in foreign countries with governments, with industries, etc. That's 120 deals where there are at least potential conflicts of interest. We ought to be able to find out whether they're conflicts. 120 opportunities for those in other countries to influence him because they have an influence on his financial condition. And actually, it's more than this. Here's what we've learned so far. I'm going to read you two quotes from one of Donald Trump's sons. Quote, Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section, close quote, of Trump's deals. And second, quote, we see a lot of money pouring in from Russia. These are Trump family's words, not my words. This is what they've already said about their situation, and yet they won't give you the details. Recent investigations have reported that he's been pursuing deals with Russian officials, oligarchs, and developers since the late 1980s. He got paid millions by an associate of Vladimir Putin's to bring the Miss Universe contest to Moscow. His former campaign manager, get this was just 2 weeks ago. His campaign chairman had to resign when it was revealed that he had accepted money without lawfully disclosing it from interests in Russia and the Ukraine that are connected to Vladimir Putin. This is his campaign chairman. This is his chairman. One of his main military aides, retired General Michael Flynn, regularly appears on Russian government-funded propaganda channel. His new campaign CEO, after the reboot, Steve Bannon, runs a website that publishes articles that are pro-Kremlin about both Russia and the Ukraine. And recently, the former acting director of the CIA said he thinks Trump is acting, these are his words, as a, quote, unwitting agent, close quote, of the Russian Federation. Now, again, these questions could have answers, but we're entitled to ask them. We're entitled to get the information to get to the bottom of this cozy bromance between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Would Trump as president help our allies block Russia from annexing more territory and destabilizing Europe, where hundreds of thousands of Americans live and about 70,000 of our troops are deployed? And what if Russia engaged in some kind of cyber attack or other effort to destabilize an election in this country? Would Trump stand up against them? I mean, sadly, we already know the answer to that one. We know the answer to that one. Russia has engaged in efforts to destabilize elections in Estonia and the Ukraine and other countries. They've funded political parties that are pro-Russia throughout Europe. They've done this. This has been demonstrated. And Donald Trump, knowing that, went on TV when we were at the convention in Philadelphia and said, hey, Russian hackers, help me hack into the Democratic Party, or help me hack into the Clinton campaign and give me information so I can win an election. This has never happened in a presidential election, that a major party nominee has encouraged another country to commit acts of espionage or spying to try to help him win an election. And you know what he said when he got criticized for that? Hey, I was just kidding. I mean, now that's a weird sense of humor, folks. I mean, if you think that's funny, then there's something major league wrong with you. There is nothing funny about trying to encourage another nation to take actions that are essentially akin to espionage in an American electoral process. What would our confidence be that Donald Trump would stand up against that? I mean, my confidence would be zero. So, like on this issue about the taxes, until there might be answer to these questions, but until he gives us the information, we can't answer them. And until he gives us the information about his foreign ties, there is not one reason for one voter in this country to trust Donald Trump. Not one. Not one. Not one. And then the last one. This one is almost a little comical, really. But before I get into the most important question, which is how we win, this last issue about the job interview, it is a common thing in the job interview for a candidate to produce information about their health. Now Hillary Clinton, I don't know why Donald Trump decided he wanted to pick this fight, because Hillary Clinton has disclosed significant information from credible physicians about the complete state of her health. She's done what other candidates do. Again, you have a right to know that information. Absolutely. And I'll tell you something, if I can just be personal for a minute, I'm the lucky guy. I just got added to this ticket 5 weeks ago, and I can't keep up with Hillary Clinton. She's been campaigning for 17 months. Hillary Clinton is a tough, strong, and healthy leader. And I don't know why Donald Trump would want to raise this question. I don't know why he'd want to raise it. And so what do we know about Donald Trump's health? Well, funny thing, you should ask that. While Hillary has produced this significant report about her health and shown the American public through 17 months of tough campaigning just how vigorous she is, just how much stamina she has, Donald Trump has not produced any medical records save a one-page letter from his physician who quoted, and he said this, if Donald Trump is elected at the age of 70, quote, he'd be the, quote, healthiest individual ever elected, close quote. That is the medical report. The healthiest individual ever elected. Now, this week we learned something about that letter. We learned that the doctor that wrote it was ordered by Trump to write it, and Trump sent a limo over to the office to wait downstairs, and he said, I wrote it in 5 minutes. I mean, look, the one good thing we could say about Trump's health is apparently the medical issue that kept him out of service is magically cleared up, because now he's the healthiest individual who is ever going to be elected. So I guess, we got a medical miracle working here. But when the doctor was asked about that, he said, I wrote it in 5 minutes, and I used words that I thought would make my patient happy. I don't know why that makes me very unhappy when I hear that. Like, really? You think that you can do that and get away with it? Hillary Clinton has met every one of these tests, tax information, financial information, health information. Donald Trump has not only not met the tests, I mean, he'd kind of get an incomplete. I mean, he's just failed to even follow the rules that everybody else has to follow. And it's like he thinks we're suckers. I mean, think about it. Think about it. This whole thing looks like Donald Trump's next big con. It's the next Trump University. It's the next stiffing the contractors. It's the next taking the retirees' down payments. It's the next big con. And he's thinking that, I don't know, maybe Virginia voters aren't so smart. Maybe Pennsylvanians aren't so smart. Maybe Americans aren't so smart. Maybe I can come to the job interview and just stonewall and say nothing and somehow get the job. I mean, who gets a job if they do that? You can't come to the job interview and have the questions asked and say nothing and expect that you're going to get the job. But that's what Donald Trump is thinking. I mean, are we going to let him pull the wool over our eyes? Absolutely not. And so, on these basic issues and on so many others, I think the basic message we got to say to Donald is come clean and tell the truth. And until you do, let's not get tricked by Trump. We can't get tricked by Trump. We can't get tricked by Trump. Now, I want to get to the closer here, which is how do we win? And you've already heard, from a lot of people up talking about the way to win. And I'll be honest, how's it looking right now? Here's how it's looking. I'd rather be us than them. That's how it's looking. In Pennsylvania, in Virginia, in a lot of places. I feel good about it. But I'm also mindful of a couple of things. First, this has been a season of surprises, right? I mean, polls have proven to be wrong. Pundits have proven to be wrong. Very few of us thought the grand old party of Abraham Lincoln would nominate Donald J. Trump as their nominee. So there have been a lot of surprises, and we have to assume between now and November 8th, we can't just say it's autopilot. No, it's going to be a tough election. Add to it, we live after Citizens United. Anybody who wants to can spend $1 million, $100 million, even more, create a group like Citizens for Apple Pie. They don't really tell you who they are. Then they run ads making up anything they want. You can't get them to pull the ads down. You can't sue them for libel because you don't know who the donors are. Sadly, we're living in a political climate where there's a lot of sludge out there that can make it very negative. And, you see those ads in Pennsylvania. We see them in Virginia. There's likely to be more of them. That makes things tough. And third, Hillary's trying to do something that nobody's ever done, It's not easy for a woman to be president of the United States, or there would have been a woman president of the United States. And I think everybody in this room, if you think about this, how many of you had tried to do something that folks said you couldn't do? Or folks said it was too hard, or you probably weren't going to be able to succeed. I bet everybody in this room has been told that at least once, and there are many people in the room who've probably faced that a lot in their lives. And when you face that, and Hillary's facing that, you got to assume, okay, this is going to be tough. So I like where we're looking in the polls, but you see a season of surprises in the Citizens United thing, and that we're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. We got to walk into this with full knowledge that the next 10 weeks minus 1 day are going to be really, really tough. We got to have that attitude. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Now, I'm here to tell you something. I have run 8 races, and I've won 8 races, and I ain't going to lose this one. I'm not going to lose this one. No way. No way. We're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I win races, because I'm running in tough real estate. In fact, I win, but I barely win. I never win by much, man. I am a barely likable enough person when it comes to elections. I run in a tough place. But the reason I'm able to win in a tough place is because I have this attitude, you're the underdog till you're the winner. You are the underdog until you are the winner. And that's what I think in any race, and that's the kind of person Hillary Clinton is too. She's an underdog, and she's for the underdog. She's been knocked on her back many a time. When President Clinton was trying to do health care and the other side said, we got to beat this. I know, let's call it Hillary care, and then we'll just jump all over it and jump all over her. And she couldn't get it when she was First Lady. But you know what she did? She picked herself up and said, okay, I couldn't win, but I'm not going away. I'm not giving up. I'm not backing down. We couldn't get everything we want, but we'll do a CHIP program so that 8 million low-income kids will have health insurance. That's who Hillary Clinton is. She's an underdog, and she cares about the underdogs, and that's why she's a winner. And that's why she's a winner. And so we got to have that underdog mentality, and this is where you really come in a way that's so important, and this is where I'll conclude this thing. Absolutely. 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 Here's where you come in. All that stuff on TV, what happens now is I think voters kind of start to tune it out a little bit. They've started to maybe not really believe that it's true. But I'll tell you what they don't tune out. They may tune out the stuff on TV. They may not pay much attention as much maybe to endorsements and things like that. They still believe a word from somebody they trust. So if you talk to a neighbor, or you talk to a coworker, or you talk to a parishioner, or you talk to somebody in your class, or even if it's somebody you don't even know, if you make a call and say, hey, I'm a volunteer, and they don't know anything about you except when they know you're a volunteer, they know they didn't have to do this. They're taking their time because it matters to them. People may tune out what they see on TV, but they're still hungry for a word. They're still hungry for an answer. They're still hungry for a conversation. People care deeply about the future of this country, and they want to have a dialogue, and they want to pick right, and that's where you come in. Now, raise your hand, if you will, if you've already volunteered for the campaign. Give them a big round of applause. Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Well, the good news is, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, there is still time. Right here in Bethlehem, the office is at 50 East Broad Street. You got staffers all around here and volunteers who are making it work. You got time to register to vote before October 11th. And if you want to know how to connect in, all you have to do is text TOGETHER to 47246. And if you do that, I know we'll find in this race in a nation of 330 million people what I found in my first race when I was running in one of the 9 wards in Richmond, a population in my entire ward of about 25,000 people. We can find in a big nation what I found in my ward in 1994, which is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's got the most bucks, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's on TV or radio the most. If you do the grassroots work, and if you do that persuasion work, then we can have a big history-making election on November 8th, and Pennsylvania, a keystone state, is key to our victory. So let's do all we can. You guys ready to make history on November 8th? We're going to make history on November 8th, and then we'll go to work making history every day thereafter by producing the kind of results that the American people deserve. We'll do